Greetings, kindred. Wow, I feel like it's been ages since I've done a video, but I did miss out on the new moon because I was sick at the time. But thank you to those of you that reached out, and I'm absolutely fine. Still in recovery, but getting there. So, wow, we're coming to the end of 2023, and I've been working on the new calendar for 2024. And I have to say, actually, that every moon chart I've looked at throughout 2024, there's not one, I deal with the full moon and the new moon. I don't do the quarter phases. But every full moon and new moon chart that I've looked at so far involves the black moon Lilith in either opposition or conjunction to other planets. Now, that's been quite unusual for me to see. I've never seen that in the 10 years I've been doing this. So, to see her kind of involved throughout the whole year shows that next year's going to be you know, quite a shadowy energy. And, it's not necessarily negative, although it feels negative at the time. But, that shadow energy does wake people up. It does kind of like, give us the ability to work through our inner demons. Do you know what I mean? Like our inner fears, our perception of things. And, I believe that when we come through the shadow energy to the other side, we come through a lot more wiser. We actually discover gifts within ourselves. Do you know what I mean? And we come through with this like beautiful unconditional love and for the self and for humanity. And I think we come out with a recognition as well that we are all connected on a spiritual level, on a level of higher consciousness. So I feel next year is going to be, they say that we're heading into a Great Depression, and I really do feel 2024 is that, but we've been here before and we've come through the other side. And I really do believe with all my heart that we'll do that again. Also looking at the moon charts, I've noticed that there's almost 5 eclipses next year. Now, normally every year we have 4 eclipses. That's the mainstay of things. Do you know what I mean? Every year there's at least 4 eclipses. The last time we had 5 eclipses was actually in 2020. So I really do feel 2024 again is going to be connected to 2020. And I feel this 5 eclipses that's going on is also very relevant. Now, I want to talk about the last eclipse we had as well, the lunar eclipse we had in Aries, because that was very triggering. That was a very triggering energy. And I just feel, it's common fact actually that eclipses really do last for around about 6 months, the energy of them. So we can expect over the next 6 months for a lot of triggering energy to be continuing. But, again, with triggering comes clarity. Do you know what I mean? Like when triggers go off, it's like there's a reason for it. And, even though, again, it's kind of like harsh, it's harsh energies. It's like harsh energies that really give us the clarity and wakes us up to the reality of our situations, whether that's personal or environmental. So yeah, I feel 2024 is going to be quite a year. Also, I've done a Mercury retrograde article because Mercury will enter into pre-shadow on the 25th. I'm actually recording this on the I think I'm actually recording this on the 25th, actually. So I posted that up yesterday on my website. And for those of you that have already read that, I must apologize because my spelling was quite atrocious. I've gone back and edited it and corrected my spelling mistakes, just to let you know that. And I will be linking that article wherever you're watching this in the description box below. Um, so yeah, so let's get on with this full moon. So the full moon will reach its peak on the 27th of November at 9:16 in the GMT time zone, at 4:16 in the EDT time zone, at 23:14 in the AEDT time zone. And the moon will reach its peak in the sign of Taurus at 11 degrees. Now, the moon in Taurus is all about what makes us feel secure. You know, it's all about emotional security. I mean, a lot of people call the moon in Taurus a green thumb aspect, but to me, it really does depend on the aspects. And as we can see here, our moon is involved in a T-square. So let's talk a little bit about the moon in Taurus first. I mean, the moon in Taurus, it's all about we find security through our resources. Do you know what I mean? You know, our food resources, our, you know, our home. Our home is our castle. So having a roof over our head and, you know, whether we can afford our gas and electric, you know, we need to be comfortable in all those aspects. And you know, it's all about our environmental conditioning as well. So again, you know, if our environment is out of sync and there's a lot of hardship within our environment, it kind of puts us on edge, you know, like, oh, is that going to come my way? You know, am I going to struggle? Am I going to go into hardship? And, you know, so there's a little bit of apprehension here going on. And I really do feel that with this T square involved here in this chart. So we have the moon in opposition to the goddess Ceres, who's at 22 degrees in Libra, and Mars, who's at 0 degrees in Scorpio. And of course, the moon is always opposition the sun at the full moon, and the sun is now at 3 degrees in Scorpio. Now, with the moon in opposition to Mars, you know, this kind of is an emotionally volatile aspect. And, you know, it can bring up like petty disputes socially or domestically. It can be very triggering. There can be, it's a very argumentative kind of aspect where we can act irrationally or, you know, even to the point of like alcoholism or drug abuse. Do you know what I mean? All those things come into play with this aspect. And, but it can also represent like financial depletion. Do you know what I mean? Especially with the moon in Taurus. So it could be that resources are becoming very limited. It's triggering us and we may be, you know, turning to indulgences to get through this time, which is not really good because we're losing our inhibitions and we're feeling triggered and maybe we're taking it out on other people. Or we could just be heading into some kind of depression because with the squares towards Saturn here, it's like, wow, it really does create a negative attitude. It can bring up a lot of unhappiness and, you know, an extreme bleak view of life. It can actually be quite draining to our energy levels. Do you know what I mean? Especially emotionally. So I feel a lot of people are going through this emotional depletion right now, especially since Mars is at 0 degrees in Scorpio. 0 actually represents Pluto. Pluto is its influence in number, and Pluto is also the ruler of Scorpio. And it can also be very conflicting as well because Mars and Pluto are very kind of like what they would call the warmongers. Do you know what I mean? And of course, you know, we are seeing that going on in our world right now. So again, it could be triggering from those situations where people are just feeling like tired and depressed by what's going on in the world right now. And yeah, it's just a very, very triggering time. But again, like I said, the lunar eclipse is still in effect and will be for quite some time. So, also with the moon in opposition to the goddess Ceres, I mean, that's all about our emotional securities. And, we can kind of get a little bit emotionally shut down, or our emotions can swing from one extreme to the other. But, at 22 degrees, it's all about overcoming self-limitation to reach a higher consciousness. And that's very hard for the moon in Taurus to do. Do you know what I mean? Because they have their feet on the ground, on the earth, and it's very hard for them to imagine themselves like thriving in a world that is like lacking in resources. Do you know what I mean? So the moon will also be in trine to Pluto, though. So that is an easy flow there, and as I said, Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, but it does bring up intense emotions, but it is also a regenerative energy. So I really do feel that our emotions are going to go through like twists and turns. Like one minute we may go down in the dumps, but the next minute we get our vitality back, so it's a very up and down energy. And but it can give us the courage to pull through and overcome obstacles, especially when it comes to our material and spiritual values or resources. It can give us good intuition, especially with the moon at 11 degrees. So it's not all negative. Do you know what I mean? If we can overcome the apprehension that we're feeling, or work on that depression and lift ourselves out of that rut through spiritual practices like meditation, working on our energy levels, whether we do that through herbs or vitamins or diet, you know, a little bit of positive thinking, like daily affirmations. I feel all those can help us to get through this time. But of course, this is a collective energy. So, it could be that we're feeling the collective, that we ourselves are fine, we're actually, we feel like we can break through these times of like, feeling inhibited with our feelings or our emotions, or, we can lift ourselves out the right if we are good at meditation, if we are good at protecting our energies. And so, all these grounding techniques, herbal remedies, vitamins, diet, but avoid chemical solutions. I guess that's my main point. Avoid that, or avoid people that are actually on that level right now because they're just feeling very triggered. And, I just find with drinking alcohol and, I have a lot of experience with certain people around me. I've grown up in an environment of that. So I kind of understand what the triggers are. Do you know what I mean? People open up and they can often become very bitter when they're expressing themselves. Do you know what I mean? Especially if they've been through a really hard time. So, it's probably a time for us again to keep ourselves to ourselves as much as possible and really work on our own spiritual, mental, and emotional well-being. So, we have the sun in quincunx aspect to the goddess Vesta. So basically, we've got to use our gifts wisely, our gifts and our talents, our passions, We mustn't like base all that on financial gain or for fame, or have these big grandiose ideas. Do you know what I mean? We need to be a little bit more genuine and authentic in what we're offering to people out there. And I feel that's really important right now. You know, whatever we're doing, we've got to be doing it for the benefit of mankind, you know, for the benefit of our planet. And I'm not going down the route of climate change or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about here. It's about, you know, our compassion and our empathy. But we need to be in our compassion and empathy in an authentic way and use our common sense as well. You know, it's not about taking sides, it's about resolution to problems that have become way out of hand. Do you know what I mean? There's always two sides to every story. And like, you know, I just feel that it can cause a lot of disruption socially. And I think we're seeing that already, you know, but I don't want to get too much into that because it's a very kind of touchy topic. And, you know, I'm not really here to place an opinion. I'm just reading what the chart is telling me here today. So we also have another T square actually with the Black Moon Lilith in Leo in opposition to Neptune. And they're both in square to Mercury, who's actually going to be in pre-shadow in Ophiuchus at this time. So, you know, with the Black Moon Lilith in opposition to Neptune, it really is blurred lines, you know. It really does give us like an apprehension about the future. We may feel out of touch with the reality of life right now or our life's purpose. But for some, there can be a bit of self-deception as well, especially, you know, with what I've said about, you know, this quincunx aspect with the goddess Vesta and the sun. So, you know, it's a very difficult time to manifest our desires or to, you know, bring our plans into action. So this isn't a time really to bring things in, you know, like ideas, business ideas, or you know, it's or our manifestations. If we're trying to manifest something into our lives, it's a very difficult time to do that. So again, it's all about grounding techniques. You know, bringing ourselves back in touch with reality because I feel like for many of us, our heads are a little bit all over the place. And I do mention that actually in our Mercury retrograde article, especially with Mercury in pre-shadow in the sign of Ophiuchus. So please do read that article because it takes us right into January because I talk about the pre-shadow, the retrograde itself, when the retrograde ends and the post shadow begins, and even the post shadow when that ends, you know, what the energies are at those points. So please do read that article because I'm not going to go into that here today. So, you know, with this T square with the Black Moon Lilith opposition Neptune, and both in square to Mercury's in pre shadow, it can bring up a lot of absent mindedness, mental disorganization, but also escapism, you know. So many of us really want to break free of all this oppression that we're feeling right now, you know. Um, and again, it's not a time to manifest or to put plans into action. It's definitely a time for spiritual practices, meditation, yoga, sound baths, herbal remedies, um, grounding techniques like earthing, um, you know, anything along those lines, even creative ventures like singing, playing music. I mean, music right now will be excellent, whether we pray, chant, sing, play an instrument, That is brilliant because, you know, Ophiuchus does hold the sound wave. And again, sound baths like theatre music will be very good for us right now. So anything that uplifts the spirit, that's where we want to go this full moon. We want to venture into spiritual practices that uplift our spirit, you know. So in whatever way you find that sense of peace, of inner peace, that's the way to go for this full moon. And yeah, we almost have a yacht as well. So we have Uranus in sextile to Neptune. Now, this is a generational aspect here. And that came into effect recently, a few months ago. And, you know, that's all about expanding our spiritual consciousness. It's about creating, you know, a place of utopia. And yeah, you know, many of us are probably thinking, well, you know, we can't really see that happening right now with the way the world is right now. But it is an opportunity for us to like break free of these negative, oppressive cycles and create our own utopia to expand our consciousness into the spiritual realms and connect with those that are like-minded. And, you know, with this yacht that's forming, you know, towards Venus and the South Node, and here in the UK, the midheaven, which is in the 12th house. I mean, the 12th house is ruled by Saturn in my chart wheel, which is all about the executive, the people that work behind the scenes. So it's not our front men like the politicians or, you know, these are the people that work in the corporations, you know, behind the scenes. So, you know, this yacht, this sense of utopian philosophies and spiritual consciousness can be very triggering for some because, you know, because of hardship, because of like social upheaval within our relationships, you know, and also within our domestic relationships. So I feel like hardships right now are causing a lot of problems on the home front. You know, people are feeling very triggered right now or apprehensive about the future. So it can kind of make us irritable. Do you know what I mean? So we just need to watch out for that as well. And like I said, we all need to find that place of inner peace and trust in the process. Do you know what I mean? Trust in our own ability to create peace of mind, to create peace of heart within ourselves, you know, and not get caught up in the hype. Anyway, Kindred, I'm going to leave it there. And yeah, as always, I'm sending you peace and much love. Take care.